everyone, and welcome to Schneid's 15. My name's Josh, and today we're going to be talking about second Gen Cummins. I thought I should do this video for the community because I've owned one since 2014. It's 2022 now. I believe I bought it at the end of 2014 or it was the beginning of 2014, so I'd have to look back at my records, but either way I've owned it for give or take 8 years. I see a lot of popularity in these trucks lately. The value's going up. I mean, the value's going up on anything. It doesn't matter. It's not just these trucks. But we're just here to talk about the do's and don'ts I think you should do with the truck. I've seen a lot of people get into the trucks and get out of them really quick. I've really held through because mine's been a good truck. I'm going to talk about why I think it's a good truck, and I'm going to try and not ramble on too much. We're going to do this in 2 parts. I just finished filming another video that I did and I rambled on too much, I think. So I'm refilming this right now, what you're going to see. And we're going to do 1 part in the garage about talking what I've done to the truck, what I think you should do to them. It all depends on your budget, what you want out of the truck, if you're going to be towing, if you want speed. It all depends on how big of a pocketbook you got in the end. And if you're looking at buying one to just drive and have it be a nice driver and do regular truck stuff with it, guys, and not get too carried away, that's pretty well what I've done with it. And I think that's probably your best bet. But again, everything can be upgraded. It all depends what you want to get out of the truck. So I'm just going to talk about stuff that I have done to the truck that I like that I've done, stuff that I've done that I think was a waste of money, or stuff that maybe I should have never touched, and we'll go from there. So it's just an overall video for anybody looking to get into the second gen community or already has one. They can chime in also. If you want to chime in, please leave a comment and say how long you've had your truck for and what you like about your truck, what you've done to it, and any recommendations that I have missed that you want to chime in on. I'm sure they're good. If you've owned one of these trucks for a while, you probably have some good recommendations, and I appreciate everybody's opinion. I'm just going to talk about my experiences with the truck, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to start out by telling the story of my truck, how I got it, why I did the upgrades that I did to it, and the chain of events that followed after you changed something little on the truck. So when I first was 18, I got the truck. I had a 2000 Silverado 1500. It was a good truck. I always wanted a diesel. I always wanted a first gen, and I could never find one. They were few and far between back then for in good shape to find one original. I thought I might find one, never did. I actually did this year. We won't talk about that now though. So I ended up with a second gen. So I put the word out that I was looking for a first gen. My grandma played cards with this old boy named Laverne, really nice guy. He bought the truck brand new off the lot. It had 120,000 kilometers on it, which is about 65 to 70,000 miles in that range for you guys in the United States. It was an automatic 47RE, regular cab, long box. I'll be posting some overlay pictures as we're going through the video so you guys can visualize what I'm talking about. And I got the truck for a good price. I paid $3,500 for it. The truck, as you'll see in the pictures that I'm going to overlay in this, had some dents in it. It had some rust, and it needed about $2,000 worth of work. It needed brakes all around. It needed brake lines. It needed, what else did it need? An oil leak fixed on the crank position sensor. It needed work. I put money into it when I bought it. Like I said, the price seemed all right, the $3,500 I paid for it, but it ended up costing me probably about $5,500 or $6,000 into that truck before I even started driving it. And I think that's what I sold my old Silverado for, was around that price. So when I first got the truck, again, I'm not going to take this too long. I didn't have a lot of money. I wanted to upgrade it because this thing was so slow and I was daily driving it. Exhaust was rotted off. I put a MagnaFlow 4-inch straight pipe on it because I love the pure sound of the Cummins. Who doesn't? So I put that on. Still have it on there today. It was only like $290 back then with shipping to my door, which is pretty sweet. It's still on the truck today. It's getting a little bit rusty, but that's almost probably 8 years old now. So that was about the first upgrade I did to the truck, was the exhaust. It had a new injection pump put on it previous to me buying it. It had a new in-tank lift pump on it, which I knew I had to gut because I knew if I wanted to upgrade the power that I needed more fuel to go to it, I needed gauges, the list goes on. So after about probably half a year, I got glow shift gauges for it, 3-in-1, just cheap gauges. I never liked the pillars all being in my face, well, because I was daily driving it at night. I just didn't like that. Sure, the pillars look cool, but I put it down there. That gauge worked for years and it worked good. I actually ended up selling it a couple years ago when I changed up my setup. I would probably recommend those again, honestly. It had EGT, fuel pressure, and boost, everything that you'd need. So I tapped it all in for a couple $100, not having a lot of money, budget built it. Put that in, the intake, gutted the stock intake. I bought a big honking air filter. It's a Napa 2790 part number. Don't ask me how I still remember that, but I do. It clamps right onto your factory air intake. I threw it in, so for a budget upgrade, it was great. There's aftermarket ones you can buy. Do I recommend them? Sure, if you want to spend the money on them. Does the big honking air filter work? I still have it in the truck today. Still works good. I don't recommend not putting one in and going with an aftermarket intake that's going to cost you a few hundred. I still run mine today and it works fine and it offers huge filtration. So yeah, I would and recommend it. And in the second part of this video, we're going to go out to the truck and talk about everything. But in this one, we're just going to go through everything and just do my run around through it. So once I did that, I pulled out the turbo silencer ring so I could hear the turbo. Of course, being an 18-year-old kid, that's what I wanted. And being 26 years old now, I still like it. That's pretty well all the upgrades that I did to it. Once I got the exhaust opened up, the intake opened up, the gauges, then I knew. I've always been prepared like that. I'm not the guy that throws the chip in right away and melts down or whatever. I've always been prepared and taken my time with that stuff within reason. I knew that where I need to spend my money. So I did all the upgrades of that to upgrade the volumetric efficiency of the motor, to get technical there. Now I knew I was ready for power. Not having enough money for new stuff, well, I shouldn't say that. I probably could have bought it, but I've always been fairly careful with my money. I found an Edge Easy chip for the truck. Going through that, I learned a lot of stuff. If you're buying used chips, guys, and you're out there, when guys advertise them 98.5 to 02, they don't all work for that. There is certain ones that do with adapters, but they don't all work for that. So I believe it's the 98.5 to 2000 trucks had one Pro chip. But the 01 and the 02 both had different voltages, different connectors, different setups for your map sensor. Nothing will plug in, so don't get caught on that. If you are buying a used programmer chip, get one that, if it's used, that make sure it's compatible with your truck, with the style of map sensors that you have. One will have like the 102s, I believe, have like a three-prong plug that plugs into talk to your injection pump, just in plain words there, and the 98.5 to 2000 have like a triangle plug. And no, you can't cut the wires and change stuff. I know some of the guys with the really old Quadzilla chips, they were doing that. They were able to accomplish it, but that's all technical if you're in there. So all that being said, buy the right programmer for your truck. I bought the Edge Easy, ran that for a couple years. The truck worked great with it. It adds about 60 horsepower. I ran it. The truck was really comfortable to drive. in that meantime of adding that power, I was concerned about the looks of the truck. So I needed new tires, so I put on 285 75 16 BF Goodrich. They work, they don't rub, you can still run mud flaps. With, I believe, stock height, I put in a 2.5-inch leveling kit. I put the 2.5-inch leveling kit in because I wanted to lift a truck. You're all about that at that age, and you know what? I don't regret doing it at all. Should I have done some stuff better? Yes. After driving the truck for about that year, I knew that my front axle was off center. I can imagine how many people were following me and you notice your axle's off center. I mean, I still see it today when guys put in leveling kits and they don't do it properly. My steering was really loose after driving it for about a year. The track bar was completely toast. They're not known to be a good design, but that ball joint was banging back and forth. Like my axle could go a 1/2 inch each way. It was really bad. So I needed a track bar. I bought a used 3rd gen track bar, nothing wrong with it. I put a new bushing in it, put it in. It was adjustable, so I adjusted it out to recenter my axle because I believe every inch you go up, your axle goes 1/2 inch out sideways because that bar's on an angle. You lift the body up, it pulls your axle one way. So that's hard on all your joints then, and probably why my brand new track bar failed so quick. So 3rd gen track bar centered out my axle. That's all good. The sway bars should have been lengthened and lengths. So I ended up getting those and extending it so my sway bar sat right because you're really pulling on it with the factory stuff. You need longer ones. So I threw those on, new sway bar bushings. The truck was pretty happy in that department. The steering was still a little bit off. I didn't really believe in the what do you call them, the braces that they sell. They're great. Guys like Far From Stock Store, Daryl, he makes those and they do a great job. Thank God for guys like them. They really do make great quality projects for this truck. So if you're just getting into Dodge, I would check out Far From Stock Store. They really do make nice quality stuff. I've never bought stuff from them because, like I said, I've lucked out buying used stuff because for me to go across from Canada to the United States and buy stuff, it costs me import charges. The dollar, you're like 35% on it, give or take, that you got to add to the price by the time you get it over. With those import charges, it gets super expensive. And so I try and find stuff that's been used that I can replace bushings in it, because I mean a track bar, it's not going to go bad, guys, unless you have like a show truck that you want perfect paint on or something. Anyways, going on from that, I put in a new steering box. I never did the steering brace because I didn't think I needed it. I still don't have one. Put in the new steering box, and I drove the truck like that for quite a while. I drove it with that Edge Easy, and finally my transmission went. When you add power to these things, they're not good. So the transmission got rebuilt. I was still never happy with an automatic. I wanted a manual. And like I said, I'm going to talk about things that I thought I liked at the time, maybe wish I wouldn't have done now. The automatic and manual swap has been a real hit and miss for me because the automatic is super nice when you're driving that thing through traffic and stuff, and the manual is a super pain when you're driving in traffic in and out. It's not that big of a deal, but the automatic is one thing I maybe wish I would have kept. But then again, if I get into a truck with an automatic and drive in it, they just seem like such a dog because you're not putting the power to the ground. If you want to build your transmission and put a lot of money into it, you can. But before we start going on about prices of upgrades and what you want out of the truck and stuff, I'm just going to finish my story on the trucks. So I put the transmission in there. I got a used one, put it in that was just built, had receipts. It worked amazing, and then one time it detonated. My fault, trying to save some money. Wouldn't do that again. Had a guy rebuild it, which was good. I still wasn't happy with it, and I always wanted to bang gears. And in the meantime, I should say, I got my uncle to fix up the box. He only charged $1,500 to repaint the silver on the bottom of my truck. the bed and do some touch-ups to the doors and stuff like that. He made the truck look really good. Yes, there was filler involved, and I wish it wasn't in there, but either way, the dents that were in it weren't going to get pulled and have a pristine box anyways. I would always have to get a new box for the truck probably to make it pristine. So there is some filler in it where the dents were, but for $1,500 I had a really good looking truck at 18 for that price, and he helped me out greatly for that, and I don't ever look back on that. That was good. It still looks pretty good. I would still like to upgrade the body on it now, but getting back to the story again, transmission, I drove for a couple years, wasn't happy. I found with the leveling kit, the steering box upgraded and stuff, everything worked pretty good. I was happy with driving the truck, but I still wanted that standard. I watched for a long time to find the perfect standard swap, and I found one that was a 1999, the same as mine. Transmission was good, had high K on it, so I had a buddy check it out. Had all the interior parts, the computers, had everything that I needed for the swap, and it came with a South Bend clutch and hydraulics, which was a really great part of the swap. That I got all that. I got the whole swap for about the price of the clutch. Swapped in the manual transmission. I've never looked back. I really like the manual transmission, and I did everything proper. There's actually YouTube videos on it. I'll post a link here, or I'll pop a card up here for you guys that you can click onto my swap series. It was a few years ago. Camera quality wasn't as good as now, but bear with me when you're watching that one. At least the information's out there. I'm glad I filmed it. It's helped a lot of people over the years. So manual transmission, and once I put the manual transmission in, I knew I could upgrade power. So I put an Edge comp in, which adds 120 horsepower. The comp worked great. I ran that for probably 3-4 years. It worked excellent, guys. Really liked the Edge comp, but it was time for it to go. I was making a bit more money, and I wanted just a little bit more flexibility with the truck. So I put in a Quadzilla tuner, got rid of the gauges, everything Bluetooth to my phone on the holder now. It works really good. And the truck to this day just has all those basic intake mods and everything, stock injectors, stock everything. Everything is stock on that truck besides the tuner and the intake, really, and exhaust. Like it's not a modified truck. The truck gets from point A to point B. It only let me down once, and that was because on your transmission lines, the Dodge uses a stainless steel hose clamp with a steel stud in it, and the steel stud rotted out. The hose clamp came off of the cooler, blew a transmission line, and all my fluid puked out. Had my girlfriend at the time, now my fiance, she drove down probably 50 kilometers. It was like minus 30. I remember it was so cold. She got me hose clamps from Canadian Tire. I gave her a list of what to get. She ran it down to me. I filled up the transmission with fluid and drove it home. Wasn't a big deal. That's the only time the truck's ever let me down, and that's pretty well the whole story on the truck. I put aftermarket headlights in it so I could see better, and LED bulbs, because I just really couldn't see with the stock stuff, even with the best bulb you could buy. So other than that, the truck's pretty well stock. Now how the truck sits, last year I put on some 20x12 rims and tires, and that's where it is now. That's the whole story of the truck, basically, and that's where it is. It's been a good truck. So let's get on to talking about the do's, some of the stuff I wish I would have done, stuff I wish I did do to it, and then we'll finish up this video. Then in the next video, we'll be out at the truck, and we'll talk about what the upgrades I have done, and show them, and what I would recommend you doing if you're buying one of these trucks or have one. And like I say, anybody can chime in on other upgrades. Okay, so do's and don'ts. When you first buy the truck, I went through all the stuff that I recommend, that just how I did it through time, looking back on it now after owning it for a long time. And it's been a good truck, like I said, it's been good. But we're going to look at stuff that I might have done different. So the gauges, no, I probably wouldn't have done those different. I like those. The air intake, that's fine. I still run it. Still no issues with it. Fuel pump, I put on an AirDog Raptor. I wish I would have done that different because I lied earlier. The truck did break down on me once because, well, it didn't break down. I got home. The fuel pump seized up on me, and AirDog sent me a new one. They were really good. I went through about 3 AirDog pumps, and then I got a good one and have been running that for a few years now, and it's been fine. So the AirDog pump and their warranty customer service was excellent. Always amazing to deal with. I would recommend their pumps totally. If I was in the States, maybe I would have bought maybe a FAS. They've all come out with new ones since I did that years ago, but that Raptor pump, I bought it in Canada off of a guy that already had imported it. I got it for like half the price, and it was brand new. He just never used it, and it's been a good pump. So after I replaced those ones, so I would have maybe done that differently, but I'm still gonna say if you're buying one of these trucks, the key thing to do is get fuel pressure to it right away. Don't ever run that VP44 short of fuel because you'll regret it because you'll have to get a new one. I'm not an expert on it, guys. You can chime in, but basically from what I understand, the VP44 is not designed, that's your injection pump, is not designed to pull fuel. It overheats when it pulls fuel. It gets so hot that it melts your circuit board. I think the solder in your circuit board gets hot, causes a loose connection, and then your VP44 messes up. So most guys just throw in a new VP44. I found a website actually over in Europe because they run VP44s on a lot of different cars over there. I want to say Land Cruisers or something run them over there. They have different cars in Europe. Anyways, they have VP44 pumps over there. So there's actually guys that you can cut your circuit board off the wires and ship them it, and they'll actually repair it. I don't know how it works. I've never had anybody use it, but I've found it online. I know if it was me, if I know my injection pump's good, if it's not an internal issue, if I know it's a circuit board issue, I would probably try it for a couple $100 rather than put on a new injection pump. That's just an option. Getting to stuff that I wish I would have known about the truck and wish I would have done earlier. I really wish I would have found out with putting the 20x12s on it. I always thought the truck would drive worse with them, but the truck drives super, super straight now. It goes amazing down the road with those 20x12s on it. I always had issues with the truck wandering, and it would get on me on long drives, but with those 285, 75, 16 tires I put on it, the bigger ones, probably, like I said, 6 months after I bought the truck, they always looked good, were practical, made the truck sit up a little bit, and I was really happy with them. But once I went to the 20x12s, the truck drove so straight, and I used to see the truck, if I'd have it sitting there and I would push on the front fender back and forth, the actual rim would sway, or the rim would sway inside the tire. And they were 10-ply sidewalls. I wasn't running with the wrong tires on them, and I think that was the reason why my truck drove so bad, was because it swayed inside the tires. My buddy has big ones, 35s on his, and he had Toyos, and I pushed on his truck and I couldn't get his truck to do it. So I don't know if they're a better tire or what, but from my experience, they sway inside the tires, and I've heard guys complain about that, and it makes the truck really wishy-washy feeling, guys. So I think that's why on a lot of the trucks now they run bigger rims for looks with a lower profile tire. I'm not talking crazy low profile tires, but like something 4 inches or something, because there's no tire sway, and that helps a lot, guys. I really truly do believe that the tire sway was a big thing of why my truck handled bad, and I wish I would have known to keep to a smaller tire on those rims, because they're only 6.5 inches wide and the tires are 10, so they're like a balloon on there, and it's always hard. You have to really play with your tire pressures to get them to run smooth, and it's just the name of the game once you start customizing stuff. So that's one thing that I wish I would have known sooner about the truck. So if you're buying one, that's something to look into. As far as steering otherwise, guys, you can throw a ton of money at these trucks. There's aftermarket companies everywhere that are making braces, Heim joint kits for them. They make everything, and they're all good upgrades. It's all in what you want to put into the truck, how much money you want to put into it. With me, I've just kept everything greased, kept the ball joints tight, kept just everything greased and good, and I upgraded that track bar, which I want to talk about. I put the 3rd gen one in just because I got a deal on it locally. Like I said, getting stuff from the States is very expensive, so I went with that. I think if I did it again, I probably would get one of the ones with the Heim joint with the ball socket joints on each end, because they really are a better design in my opinion, rather than a rubber bushing that can wear out. I like those, and especially if you need to change them, they're not hard to do. Same with your tie rods, you can upgrade all that stuff. Do you really need to do it on a regular daily driver? Probably not, but if you're getting into really big tires and stuff, probably a good idea to upgrade that stuff. But for a daily driver, I'm happy with what I did to my truck with just that steering box. I've never driven one with a steering brace on the steering box, so I'd be willing to try it. It's just more money, and really the truck drives nice now that I'm not battling it. It drives straight, so I really don't think I need to put that steering brace on. Sure, if one came up for cheap, I'd probably try it, just because, I mean, I'm sure there's still improvement that can be done. I know there is. It still doesn't drive like a new vehicle. It still does have, it's a Dodge steering wheel. It's just how they are. That is all for steering and suspension. I mean, I did longer control arms for my bigger tires. Those should have been done. But again, that's only if you had a leveling kit that you need to throw those in, really. Otherwise, the stock ones are more than adequate. You don't need to customize them for no reason. Just make sure they're tight, though. Make sure the bushings are good in them. And moving on to the next thing, with programmers, I like the Quadzilla is good. The power can be a little surgy sometimes, and I've never been really happy with that. I really liked how smooth the edge power was. I've been promising you guys a video on it, and I haven't got around to it. I'm hoping this summer to do a lot more Dodge stuff. I've been getting rid of a lot of my toys and excess stuff that I've had lately that I wasn't using, and it was taking up my time fixing it. Hoping to really concentrate on this thing this year. So I think I've went over all of the upgrades that I've done to the truck and what I have done to it that I liked and didn't like. Otherwise, that's the whole story of the truck. We're going to talk a little bit more about stuff when we get to the physical truck and can talk about stuff. But one thing I can say, guys, if you're a guy looking at this video that's looking into buying a truck and wants the power right away, these trucks are not made to be a race truck, and there's only so much that your differential, drive shafts, powertrain, everything is designed to handle without upgrading. Yes, with a lot of money, you can upgrade everything and make it reliable, but if you want this truck reliable, I wouldn't go any more than the Quadzilla chip that I got for daily driving. I mean, you can push them a bit more, but once you get into that, then I see guys ripping out differentials, whatever. And I'll be honest, after owning mine for 8 years, a lot of guys that used to have these trucks, they buy them, crank up the power, put a bunch of money into them, and they'd break stuff. Break down, fix, break down again, and they would get mad at the trucks. And you get mad when stuff is not reliable. So the truck could be for sale within a year or two, gone. And then they come and they drive in my truck and they're going, man, I wish I would have kept my truck. I really miss this. And at the time, I was not the cool guy because I didn't have huge power running through my truck, and they had a 600, 800 horsepower, which was cool. It was cool. But if you want one to last for a long time and you really enjoy the truck, I would recommend keeping it down unless you have a lot of money to upgrade everything, because after you change one thing, you got to go farther. But yeah, all I'm going to say, if you buy one, guys, don't crank the power out of it right away. Upgrade it tastefully, and if you want to go more than that, look into the appropriate upgrades you need, and definitely you got to get traction bars going. none of it was designed to ever have more than the 235 horse or whatever they had stock going through them. That's what they were designed to handle for a long time, and when you crank that thing up to even 400 horsepower, or I don't know what mine would have, 350, 400 maybe. I don't know. That's the claim of fame on them, but I'm not one of those guys for numbers. I don't care how much it has. It's a lot more drivable now with these mods that I've done to it, and I think you should be pretty happy if you run just a chip and stuff for a daily driver, and it gets it up to speed. It's not a dog like it was from stock. But if you want it to be a race truck or a really fast truck, guys, be prepared to spend money on it. You can get into turbos, you can get into everything, and it just never ends. All I can say is talk to somebody reputable that knows the trucks. It wouldn't be me. Talk to somebody reputable that knows if you want to tow 10,000 pounds regularly, throw a different turbo on it or throw a different injectors in it. It's all stuff that you got to consider, and it's worth talking to somebody that really knows these trucks and what to upgrade, diff covers, just all this stuff. Everything gets hotter when you're putting more power through it, and there's just more strain on everything. So talk to somebody that knows these things better than I do, that works on them every day, and that would be your best bet if you're looking to spend some good money on them. I think that's everything. Chime in. This is just a video I want to go over talking and rambling on for people that are really, truly interested in buying a second gen or have one and want to know the story that I had with mine and just want to know what it's like to own one. It's been a good truck for me, but I can say in the end, one thing I didn't talk about is get one with a good body on it if you can. It's worth spending the extra money because bodywork is not cheap, and it's only original once, and it's nicest to work on when they're original. So it's worth traveling for one, worth waiting for one. That's all I can say is condition is a big deal, guys. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for part 2. We're going to head out to the truck, and we're going to go over everything I've done to the trucks, what stuff to look for, and just overall why I like the truck and compared to other stuff, and just go over everything. And chime in. Thanks for watching, guys.
As always, guys, thanks for watching, and please give the channel a like and a subscribe. If my videos interest you, please click on my channel and check out my other videos.